It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Wednesday, September 25th. I'm Wendy Corr, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily newsroom, brought to you by the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. Launching October 1st at 6 a.m., Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols is making morning radio cool again. Tune in from wherever you are for the latest news, weather, sports, and in-depth conversations that matter to you. Well, after hearing that the San Jose State University women's volleyball team has a transgender player in its lineup, the University of Wyoming women's volleyball team discussed the matter and decided to go ahead and play its scheduled match against the undefeated California school on October 5th anyway. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the controversy erupted this past week when a San Jose volleyball player joined a group of women's lawsuit against the NCAA.
Her premise for joining is that she was rooming with and training with a transgender member on her team and just found out about it not too long ago. In fact, she went some time without knowing about it. And the lawsuit says that she's concerned for some of the women's safety, and she's also concerned that having the transgender player gives her team an unfair edge.
In an email Tuesday, the California school told Cowboy State Daily that no other teams have canceled their volleyball matches against San Jose State. Devil's Tower National Monument is investigating what led to the sudden death of 21-year-old Stuart Porter, who fell while descending Devil's Tower Sunday evening. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that while the investigation will ultimately reveal what likely happened to cause the fall, a climbing death is something that reverberates throughout the climbing community.
As one of the Devil's Tower climbers I spoke to said the risk is real, but the thrill is real as well. So it's not about skill, and it's not about anything like that. This can happen to any climber on any route. It's more a question about, preparedness and redundancies, or what many people said. And that's just the unfortunate nature of these sort of things.
In more than a century of people climbing America's first national monument, Porter's is only the 7th climbing-related death on Devil's Tower. The future of University of Wyoming athletics became murkier Monday when Utah State University said it's leaving the Mountain West Conference for the Pac-12. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that the Aggies are the 5th school to leave the Mountain West this month, which now only has 7 teams left, including UW.
This is probably not going to mean the death of the conference, is what Gary Crum told me. He's a former UW football star and running for the Wyoming legislature right now. He thinks the schools that are truly loyal to the Mountain West will stick around, and the fact that the conference is getting a large sum of money as far as the exit fees and poaching fees it's receiving as a result of all these schools that are leaving.
The Pac-12 conference lost all but 2 of its members in 2023 in an exodus initiated by the universities of Oregon and Washington. The 22-year-old concession worker who vanished last week after summiting Yellowstone National Park's highest peak is an amateur mountaineer who'd been talking about the climb for weeks. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland spoke to Austin King's best friend, Desmond McGroarty. King and McGroarty have been friends since kindergarten. King called his friend from the top of the mountain on September 17th and hasn't been heard from since.
He said it helped to have some family members come in early this week. That helped. That way they're together at least. But one tiny sliver of hope is that when the searchers found King's campsite, his sleeping bag was not there. So there's just this lingering hope that maybe he's curled up in it somewhere. Yellowstone put out a statement today saying they're still hoping for the public's help where possible.
The top of Eagle Peak is 11,361 feet above sea level, and the mountain is known for its brittle and shifting footholds. Well, Texas-based Uranium Energy was already North America's largest uranium-focused company with several Wyoming assets in play. But Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean reports that it's about to get an even bigger Wyoming footprint with the $175 million acquisition of Wyoming's only conventional uranium processing mill and its assets.
Wyoming only has one of these uranium processing production facilities. It's rated for 4.1 million pounds of yellow cake a year. That's 3,000 tons a day. So it's a pretty hefty amount of production. So it's kind of a no-brainer to pick this up, really. They already have 20 some odd locations in Wyoming. Wyoming has some of the world's largest reserves of uranium. So they are really getting set up here to be the king of uranium production in this new energy economy that the world is moving to, whether we want them to or not.
The mill, which is about 40 miles northwest of Rawlins, belonged to global mining and metallurgy giant Rio Tinto. The purchase includes around 175 million pounds of existing uranium resources ready and waiting to be captured. And now let's take a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
Well, it's a different day, but the weather's the same. We're going to be looking at more sunshine. Temperatures are going to warm up a little bit today, and the next 3 days will be pretty warm. Many areas in Wyoming's lower elevations could eclipse well into the mid-80s in some areas, with cool nights in the 40s and 50s, and our rain chances through Sunday are very, very minimal. So we've got great weather for traveling. Looks like great weather coming up at the end of the week for high school football for the Cowboys in Laramie Saturday evening. Now, for you hunters out there wanting a change in the weather, I don't have one until maybe we'll start to see a bit of a cool down coming early next week. Until then, folks, we're just on cruise control with the weather.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. I'll be back in just 20 seconds with more news.
When we say community is the heart of Hilltop, we're talking about a team of bankers committed to improving the place we call home. A team that shows up every day to help businesses thrive and gives back to our neighbors through time, attention, and service. We're inspired by the way our bankers give back because that's one of the many qualities that makes us truly a community bank. Hilltop Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Colorado's wolf woes continue as another wolf has been found dead of undetermined causes. Meanwhile, it's been confirmed that a rancher's cow and calf have been killed in the same area a pack of wolves had been trapped and removed for killing cattle. That's according to Outdoors reporter Mark Hines.
We reported previously on the fact that they trapped and relocated an entire pack, the Copper Creek pack. The reason those wolves were removed was for killing cattle, and it sounds as if some other wolves have come right behind them and killed a cow and a calf. So that problem might still be ongoing.
Colorado has struggled to find wolves for its reintroduction program, but Colorado Parks and Wildlife has announced that up to 15 more wolves could be brought in from British Columbia, Canada. A rancher from Shawnee was fined $500 Tuesday in Douglas Circuit Court after pleading no contest to starving horses he'd earlier claimed were poisoned. 58-year-old Joe Bright was charged November 8th with 5 counts of failing to feed or water the animals. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the citations followed a viral online post that Bright made via his ranch's Facebook page, in which the ranch offered a $10,000 reward for the arrest and conviction of anyone connected to, quote, the murder of their horses.
Joe Bright still maintains his innocence, that he still is seeing evidence that it could have been someone else. You know, there are other people who could have had that opportunity or that urge to hurt his horses, according to his attorney. So he pleaded no contest, which acts like a guilty plea for the purposes of ending that criminal case, but you don't have to give a confession, and you may spare yourself a lawsuit if applicable, because you haven't given a confession.
The Bright family had put up a GoFundMe page and had raised $583 towards its offered reward. Any donors requesting reimbursement will have their requests honored, and any money left will be donated to the Wyoming Horse Rescue Program. Well, as distrust of voting machines continues in conservative circles in Wyoming and across America, Wheatland Representative Jeremy Haroldson is planning to bring legislation in the upcoming 2025 session that would clarify that hand-counting ballots is legal in Wyoming. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that over the past few years, and particularly this summer, there's been a growing movement for hand-counting ballots in Wyoming as opposed to using electronic vote tabulators.
I spoke to Malcolm Irvin, the president of the County Clerks Association of Wyoming and the Platte County Clerk. He said they're not necessarily opposed to having some hand count things happen in Wyoming elections, but the clerks really want advance notice and to be able to work hand in hand with this type of legislation. Irvin said this can be, at the very least, the state's going to have to change its deadlines for certifying elections.
Secretary of State Chuck Gray said he fully supports hand count elections and will continue to advocate for them. And as the air turns chilly and night is more reluctant to let go, many in Wyoming turn to old traditions to prepare for the cold and snow. For Longmire creator and Johnson County resident Craig Johnson, this time of year brings the much anticipated Wood Week. The author told Cowboy State Daily's Jackie Dorothy that the lure of Rainier beer on a crisp fall day, with the added promise of good times, brings in Johnson's faithful Wood Week crew.
Wood Week is just Craig Johnson's way of saying it's time to gather wood. And he's got friends that actually fly in from across the country to help him stack his wood. And they celebrate, of course, with Rainier beer. Every year he makes up t-shirts for his work crew. And this year he had a little bit of fun. And they call it the Absaroka County Inmate Work Crew. And he's already getting requests from people who want their own t-shirts and their own versions of this.
Johnson said preparation for wood burning is crucial, and beer never hurts the process. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.